One of you asked me earlier, what is my usual day like? And I didn't expect my day this morning to be anything like it is. I didn't realise that I should have packed my handkerchief. But at least looking around the room, I know there was more than one who had to wipe away a tear with the amazing pronouncements, discussion points, observations, emotional content that we've heard already this afternoon. So this was not what I expected my day to be like this morning, but I'm so incredibly grateful that this is what my day has turned out to be. Thank you so much to USLS for the opportunity, but thank you to the delegates. It's slightly overwhelming, 400 delegates, 44 countries, 18 Australian universities represented, so it's delightful as the Australian ambassador to acknowledge that as well. And this is the 11th USLS. It's overwhelming, but can I just echo Felipe's words that if we're talking about being the change we want to see in the world, that might mean joining institutions and changing them from the inside. So the UN would say that, and I would say that on behalf of governments as well, that people have different opportunities, different roads, different pathways to achieving the sort of change, and you will each determine what your pathway is, but it may be that it's within governments trying to change from within. And it's been really impressive to hear about Kindness Day. I think that's something the world could do with a little more of, not just internationally between our countries, but between our peoples and in our workplaces, frankly. And so I'd encourage you to take kindnesses, not just with friends and family, but with colleagues, perhaps even with competitors from time to time. So I commend that to you also. So let me just talk a little from my experience, and that's to achieve change, I think, and we've heard many different versions of this actually, but I think there is a complementarity between the comments that you've heard so far this afternoon. So I think maybe 5 things: inspiration, relationships, cultural understanding, data, and courage. So inspiration, who inspires you? Your family, your lecturer, the speakers you've heard from this week, the person sitting next to you. And how do they inspire you? What's the idea that is going to motivate you to take some action? Some of you might have drawn inspiration like I have this week from watching the FIFA Women's World Cup being hosted by Australia and New Zealand. And these exceptional sports people remind us of the benefit to our communities when women and girls are supported and included in all levels and all areas of our society, in sport, in diplomacy, in any field. And the opportunities that women have today come about because women have powerfully and clearly exercised the rights that previous generations of women have so fought for and are still fighting for. Moroccan player Nouhila Benzina was the first to wear a hijab in an international football competition. Amazing, as is Morocco's making it through to the round of 16. The presence of the Afghan women's team is now based in Australia also reminds us, though, of how much work there is to do and that progress is always resisted and our gains must always be protected. It's not enough to merely watch others achieve. Our inspiration must lead us to act. Relationships. This week has, of course, been a valuable opportunity for you to broaden your networks and meet other people who share your motivations. So I'd encourage you to be active in the alumni networks, both from this program, but also from your university, especially if you're overseas. These networks help build vital links between our countries. Good networks are an invaluable resource no matter what the field of endeavour. Collaboration and a diversity of ideas, perspectives and inputs leads to better outcomes and effects. You might never know where your best allies will come from. At the Australian Embassy, we're proud to be working with the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration and the Office of National Environmental Policy to develop, for example, nature-based solutions to mitigate urban problems such as flooding. And we've got some pilot sites, including converting landfill into an urban forest park and enhancing wetlands. So bringing agencies together from across perhaps unexpected parts of government. Walk Free is an NGO foundation focused on combating modern slavery. It's led by the Minderoo Foundation, which some of you may know, Andrew Forrest, an Australian mining billionaire, has developed. At the recent launch of the Global Modern Slavery Index, which is an important way to judge how the scourge of modern slavery exists in so many of the supply chains that many, particularly in the West, rely on in our consumer societies, there was a fascinating collaboration between the Stock Exchange of Thailand, Thailand's government pension fund, and tuna fishing companies who each talked about how in their particular roles, whether it was about making decisions about where to invest, about requiring companies to have an environmental and sustainable governance impact statement before being traded on the stock exchange, or in putting their own assessors on the fishing vessels to ensure that the rights of those who are working on the vessels were protected. It's an incredibly diverse sort of collaboration to achieve an outcome, which I think we can all agree is one that we would want, a world with no slavery. So take the time to maintain your networks, think about building them and expanding them. Your contacts will be one of your greatest sources of opportunities and ideas, and friends and family will be the ones to support you, pick you up when you fall down, make what you're trying to achieve possible. Nurture those friendships. Be with your family. Cultural understanding. Most simply put, culture is simply how do we do things around here. Here could be your local street, the members of your ethnic identity, your university, your workplace, your nationality. You'll need to know not only how to work across different cultures, but how to create belonging across those what could be divides. And to do that, you'll need to have a deep understanding of your own culture and how it informs the work that you choose to do. Australia is a highly multicultural country. Together, we speak around 420 languages, including more than 180 Indigenous languages. All Australians, whether they're one of the 1 in 3 Australians who were born overseas or descendants of the people who have lived in and with our land for over 60,000 years, benefit from understanding the rich and varied cultures that make up our country. Our diversity is our strength. It gives us the capacity to reach into every corner of the world and say, we share common ground. We can understand that there are different approaches and different ways of achieving an outcome. So I'd encourage you to challenge your own identity, your cultural assumptions, and through this to develop a more nuanced cultural understanding of the world around you. Data. This can sound a little practical and unemotional, but bear with me. To turn a great idea into an implementable one that achieves a sustainable outcome, you need evidence and data and metrics of success. We've seen the importance of data and targets in promoting action on climate change since the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change was established in 1988 to provide comprehensive, practical and trusted advice to governments. The IPCC tells us that every region in the world is expected to face increasing risks from climate hazards, with projected long-term impacts up to many times higher than observed now. And we know that emission reductions are critical to trying to meet this challenge. If we're talking about a reduction of emissions, we need to know what's the baseline, what are we working towards, what's the problem that needs fixing, is what we're going to do, what we're trying to do actually going to fix it. So setting targets is just the beginning. It's far from the end. Targets are much easier set than met, and we need actors at the state, the local and the grassroots level to work together to know what our emissions look like, to work together to reduce them and respond to the impacts of climate change. So whatever issue you might choose to address or to take up the challenge to address when you return from this incredible symposium, you're going to need an evidence base to think about it. Reducing road accident deaths. What contributes to that? Is it the use of mobile phones? Is it the condition of the roads? Is it drink driving? What would be the answer? How would you have a policy response to think about addressing this? Reducing domestic violence. Is it cultural attitudes? Is it a lack of access for women and children to refuge and shelters? Is it because this crime type is not given priority in our policing? These are the sorts of questions that we need to be asking ourselves, the evidence that we need to be collecting to think about how do you, as Janice said, make the best use of the energy and the time that you have so that you can really focus on finding solutions that will be effective in addressing the challenge that you choose to meet. And the fifth is courage. And we're surrounded by heroes who have been able to achieve what they have because of their bravery and courage in the face of adversity. You've seen some this afternoon. When Russia, in an egregious breach of international law, invaded Ukraine on 24 February 2022, it expected victory within days. Now, over 500 days later, the people of Ukraine are still valiantly fighting to protect their homeland and their freedom. They continue to show extraordinary courage in the face of Russia's invasion and unrelenting attacks on civilian infrastructure. Their unwavering resilience and courage show us the true face of bravery in the world today. Closer to home and on a completely different scale, let me just talk about Melanie Perkins, the Australian woman who founded the global graphic design company Canva. Melanie came up with the idea for Canva at the age of 19 when she was teaching design programs to her peers at university. She realised that most of the programs were expensive, complex and inaccessible. So she decided to create a user-friendly design platform available to everyone. She saw the problem and came up with the solution. At the age of 36, she's now one of the youngest female CEOs of a unicorn tech startup valued at over $1 billion. But on her way, she was rejected by over 100 investors from both Australia and Silicon Valley. She persisted. You too have what it takes to make a difference. If you're doing anything worth doing, there might be people who stand in your way or tell you it's not possible. Find your heroes, identify how they've shown courage and how you too can channel that courage into your work and persist in the face of adversity. And there's no greater courage than the courage to be authentically you. So it will be up to many of you in this room to work together across disciplines to come up with solutions to the challenges we face. Some days my line of work can feel a little bleak, but not today. I'm incredibly hopeful about the future if you're part of it. But as you've been discussing this week, you don't have to wait for government action. Individuals, civil society groups, educational institutions, grassroots groups, not-for-profits, all play an important role in instigating change and making a lasting impact. Change takes time, but every journey begins with a single step. Small projects can make a big impact to their communities, and I think you all saw that yesterday. You'll make mistakes, but your friends, your family, the people sitting next to you will pick you up. Keep going. So my sincere congratulations to all of you in this program. I'm so heartened by the enthusiasm that you've all showed. And while our planet faces many challenges, I'm so pleased that it's entrusted to you.